Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV on a Ballsmick Wednesday. How you doing? Well, I hope. Big walk-off win for the Noles last night. When you look around college baseball, buddy, that ain't nothing. There are upsets everywhere, every day in these midweek games, but not here. No, sir. Not in Tallahassee. Florida State just keeps on keeping on. It's funny. You know what kind of team this is going to be. This is an interesting discussion we can get into here in a second. I'm Jeff. That's Tom. You're listening. We appreciate it always. Thanks for doing that. And thanks for listening to Tallahassee's only locally owned and operated radio station, 93.3 FM. You know, I met a woman at Publix 2 days ago, Tom. I was walking around the corner. She was walking around the corner. Our carts nearly collided. But I asked her to walk through. There you go, ma'am. And she came back around the corner moments later and said, I hate to bother you, but I must ask, are you Jeff Cameron? I said, I am. I am indeed. She said, well, I have a story to tell you. I said, okay. And here I thought I was about to be yelled at, perhaps, because she got very serious. And she said, years ago, I was in Atlanta, and me and my husband went up to see a Braves game. And I said, okay. And in my head, I thought, where is this going? She has to know, if she's a regular listener, that I can't stand the Braves. Don't really care. But she goes on to say, well, we went to get to our seats, and there was a gentleman sitting there who was a row off of where he should be, and we had to inform him that he was in the wrong seats. And he apologized profusely and couldn't help but notice my husband had an FSU shirt on and said, oh, you went to Florida State, or you root for Florida State? And they said, yeah, we live in Tallahassee. And he said, oh, my son lives in Tallahassee. We see where this is going. It turned out to be my pops, because it was the Braves versus the Giants. And my dad had gone to see Buster Posey and the San Francisco Giants against the Braves and was apparently sitting in the wrong seats. This lady in her husband's seat. So it was a nice little anecdote. Apparently they struck up a conversation, had a good time. And I was good. I trust my dad's going to be nice. I'm not worried about that. But I was worried where the story was going. So hello to that lady and her husband, and thanks for listening. And thanks to all of you for listening. That's always cool when that happens. I think we were in the potato chips aisle.
Yeah, your dad has never met a stranger, so I'm sure they became fast friends over the course of that warm-up or those first few innings. That would not surprise me whatsoever. Did you text him yet and say, hey, remember when you sat in the wrong seat and you had to get moved? Because I think I would remember that if it was me. I'm like, oh, yeah, felt like such an idiot.
I will bring it up to him the next time I talk to him, which should be pretty soon. We've actually gone a little over a week without talking, which is kind of unusual. Normal. And now the spring football is basically starting Friday with the luncheon in Norvell. And there's interviews today, I guess, but I don't know how interested people are in that. But Monday they get it going. And we'll see. I'm gonna need something. I need some sort of something to latch on to. Maybe we'll get word in spring that quarterback play is better than we thought. Maybe that'll happen. It could. Good. I hold out hope.
You're going to get word that quarterback play is better because they need that word out there. The question is, do you get that word from somebody that you believe if we don't have access? That's the whole key here, is you're going to hear a lot of great things. Oh, well, you wouldn't believe it. These guys.
Well, I think it's going to be hard for anybody with a straight face to be over the top bragging, we don't think that's, I would be surprised. You might get some people pushing good news.
We live in strange times with this administration and university, so I wouldn't put past anybody anything in terms of leaking, quote unquote, very favorable reports. But there are some of those that do go to practice that are straight and to the point. And those are the folks that will be leaned on if we don't get a chance to go catch a few of these. But you never know. We might catch a few. You never know.
I'm going to work backwards on the baseball game, if you don't mind. I'm going to say that we'll start with the Eli Putnam walk-off winner for Florida State last night. look, they're playing in, so it goes over the center fielder's head, but the ball is well struck. And that is more to the point of what I wanted to get to. The poor guy, Putnam, he's going to have to end up being in this lineup every day, right? Like, just the way he strikes the baseball on the regular. I mean, he hits the ball hard. We need more of that. We need more guys who hit the ball hard. I was glad he got rewarded last night with that walk-off, because he hit 2 other balls prior to that one on the nose and had nothing to show for his night.
Well, and the odds of that happening, it's a nice counterbalance, because exit velocity usually begets production and slug and all these things. But when you go 0-2, and on the second pitch, it's in the other's batter's box, and you swing way over the top of it with everything you've got, you think, well, this at-bat's dead. You know, he's going to have to roll over one and hope we get to home before the force, something like that. And yet it was an odds-defying moment going the other way. So maybe it is the breakthrough for Eli. You're right. He does deserve it. He has deserved it. He's hit the ball hard. So it was good to see. And honestly, if we were down 3, I think that's a tie ball game. I think the bases are clear, because that's going to the wall, I think, in most circumstances. That was hammered to left center.
Yeah, but if we were down 3, he wouldn't have been playing that shallow. So it might have been – you're right. I don't want to take anything away, but he might have been playing deep. He would have been playing, no doubles or whatever. He was like we can't have the bases clear here.
You do have Stutzer at first, though. So that's, he's going to fly.
He's going to fly. I will say that, yes, it was a deserving result, regardless of how we think they strategically would have or would not have been playing if the situation were different. It was a deserving result. And I like him. He hits the ball hard a lot. He hits the ball hard a lot. And the reason I wanted to start by going backwards with the game itself is it's an exciting win. Florida State beats JU 7-6. I don't take for granted these midweek wins. I mentioned all around the country last night and the night before, there have been just losses everywhere, including, LSU at one point down 10-0. They lose 14-10. There's been a lot of these type games where you look at the box scores the next morning. I'm going to confess, I'm not flipping around to every college baseball in the country on a Tuesday night, but I see these results and I'm like, man, look at that. Another loss for a ranked team, another loss for a top 10 team. And that's kind of the nature of the beast in midweek when guys aren't throwing their top line pitchers. But the other reason, and so Florida State gets a win, while they're figuring it out, it's awfully nice to win the games. That's kind of a big part of this. But I have to give the glowing praise, and I have to continue to do this because I am going to do it the other way when necessary. I continue to be tough love Cameron on these airwaves when necessary. But when tough love Cameron reaches out and touches a player, puts his hands on a player and says, we got to do better, identifies a player, and then to the masses makes it known that it's 2 fingers to my eyes, 2 fingers back to you, said player. This ain't getting it done. I'm looking at you closely. When that player decides to step up and tell me to suck it in response to being on the wrong end of tough love Cameron, then I must honor the tradition and make sure that I note he has responded in a huge way, and that man is John Abraham. Holy moly. Can we start hitting him on Friday nights? John Abraham is making a case to start on Friday nights, ladies and gentlemen. He is whooping that ass. Good on you, John Abraham. His last 12 innings pitched, 5 hits, 17 strikeouts, 0 walks, and 0 earned runs. He's retired 36 of 42 batters faced. He has been dominant. 2 innings, 1 hit. 2 1/3, 1 hit. 2 innings, 1 hit. 3 innings, 0 hits, 3 Ks. 2 2/3, 2 hits, 6 Ks. That's the added up of the 12 innings that I'm talking about. The big numbers there are, of course, 12 innings pitched, 17 strikeouts, but the 0 walks. Yes, I see the 0 runs. A lot easier to not give up runs when nobody's effing on base. Good Lord, my man ain't walking nobody. You deserve big love Cameron today instead of tough love Cameron today. You, sir, get the big hug. All right, Abraham, I will turn my attention to others who need the tough love. You have graduated. You're out from under the cloak. You just go about your business and continue to whoop ass. There's a confidence about that kid, too, right now, like that, like an arrogance. like a real arrogance to his stuff. When he gets guys out now, he's got disdain for their mere presence. I like it. I like the nastiness. I think we're good, man. This is the staff is developing nicely.
Yeah, good K per 9. They tried to stay away from him last night. Link said that because obviously they're using him a whole bunch, and it was on Saturday this past week, and they had to use him on account of the doubleheader. So he won't be available to save you tonight, but I would imagine he would be one of the first arms you look to Friday or Saturday, because you still want to be able to slot him next week to give you innings against Florida on Tuesday night. You're going to need him. And then for the Wake Forest series, I think you want to burn him in game 1 to pair with Mendez, as long as the game's within touch or you're ahead next Friday night. So I would imagine that you won't see him Sunday. You're not going to see him tonight. The question is, against Northern Kentucky, do you need him on Friday or Saturday? And we'll see if they graduate him after the Wake series. But the problem is, once you get into ACC play, it's tough to move those guys up and down.
Yeah.
He's lengthened. They lengthen all these guys. But his longest appearance this year is 3 innings. That was this weekend against the Citadel. The most pitches he's thrown in a game was a couple weeks back against Michigan, when he came in and he and Mendez paired to be dominant. He threw 39 pitches in that game. So the question remaining for him would be, third time through the order, second time through the order, as you get down, into batters 15, 16, 17. Can you still continue this unbelievable run of dominance, or are they going to keep him in that high leverage role? He wants the starting gig. You can tell he wants to be either midweek starter that graduates into Sunday, or he wants to be a weekend starter outright. I just don't know if he might not be more valuable right now where he is, which is emergency valve guy during the midweek and then first guy out of the bullpen on Fridays.
Continuing the theme of going backwards here, I do want to note that I'm getting frustrated for your guy. Brody DeLamielleure last night, 2 for 2, hits the double, has the homer, and then you find out after the game from Link why he got pulled in the 5th, because you're like, well, why are they pulling a guy who's 2 for 2 and he's back and he's hitting the ball hard again? And you find out that it's the concussion. And, Tom, I'm very fortunate. I've never had a concussion that I'm aware of. I guess in theory I have had a concussion because I got knocked out in football practice one time. And I guess if you get knocked out, by definition, you probably got a concussion. But I got knocked out for 2 seconds. I've told that story before. Blocking down and a fullback refused to look where he's going and just ear-holed me. But that said, there were no other official diagnosis of concussions ever in my time of playing football, or any other sport for that matter. Been very, very fortunate. I know some people are just prone to concussions. I'm not saying he is, but some people are, and that's unfortunate, because that derails everything. I mean, at some point that can derail your entire career. I don't think this is that. I'm not trying to indicate that, but apparently, depending on the concussion, you can really have issues that last weeks on end with flare-ups. Like it appears to go away. You pass a battery of tests. You're required to pass those tests. Now there's protocol for all these things. There wasn't back in the 80s. And unfortunately, that's why CTE is a thing. People were going right back out there the next series after being concussed, and then they get subconcussed, and then they couldn't play, or they just ended up crazier than hell at 40 years of age. Now, we don't do that anymore. Everything is buttoned up with concussions. So we know that Brody DeLamielleure had to have passed, after missing time, every concussion protocol test there is. And he's back out there and he's playing well. And then all of a sudden it hits him. I feel terribly for him. I think you probably empathize more than most, just because you've had vertigo and you just never know when that's going to hit you. It sucks.
Knock on wood. I've had a few months. Yeah. A couple good months. See, now maybe I'm confused. Maybe it's coming back a few months where it's been largely quiet, but we're getting into, usually it's what I'm finding is it's allergy triggered. So we're about to get the pollination in Tallahassee.
You're going to be fine this time, Tom. It's far enough removed. You've plowed through it.
The whole town's going to look like our uniforms last night. It's just going to be one big coat of mustard yellow, which those things were gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
But yeah, I don't know what the symptom was, but it's got to be scary. You have a couple of big hits. You're maybe a little bit nervous because of the injury before, or you're anxious because you just want to get out there and help your team and they're struggling at the plate. And then, I don't know, you're walking back to your position or you're in the dugout and something's unsteady, or there's a ringing in your ear of some kind. I've had tinnitus. I mean, like that stuff's all nasty. And unfortunately, I would think this would mean he's out for at least tonight, if not a little bit longer, because if you got to pull back on that, you can't just clear the test today, I don't think, and then and trot back out there and play right field for us. It's an important bat to have in the lineup, but if he needs this weekend, hopefully whatever tests he needs to pass are passed for the Florida game on Tuesday. You're talking about trying to infuse power in that lineup. He's one of the bats for sure. He was good against Florida last year. That's one of the reasons he caught my eye was great power to right center field last year against good pitching from Florida. You'd like to have him back, and then what Putnam's doing as well. You're starting to see some of those bats slot. You're starting to see some of the hard hit rate that you want to see from Florida State. And also, I know you're still working backwards here, but we all know how the game began. Just the mental mettle to be able to handle what happened last night, to flush it and to battle back. Those are all good indicators about what sandpaper element this team has, which is nice to see.
Well, here's if you want to project weeks from now and start having the discussion about maybe why this team could be markedly better than they've been up to this point. Now, look, the record is good. So the results are what you need right now. But we don't view Florida State baseball through that prism. I say this a lot. Over the years, I've had to say it repeatedly because some people are literalists and some people don't figure out what I'm talking about within the structure of criticism. When you hold teams to certain standards, it's juxtaposed to that standard. So when I say things like this team's not any good, I haven't said that about the baseball team, but in general, when I say that, when I lay it's to the standard of great. We're trying to see, are you where we need to be to make a run at Omaha in the case of baseball? In the case of football, it's to make the playoff. Are you anywhere close to that? I mean, you could be 4-0 and I might come on the air and say you're not any good based on that standard. And we do this with basketball and other sports too, although basketball standard's pretty low, unfortunately. Now, I do it just from afar with FSU softball because our standard here, she's been so good that, you just want to get it back out to Oklahoma City and compete for a championship. But by that standard, that's how you judge them. That's what you judge the soccer program by. So when I look at this baseball team, I see a team that's right now not very good, Tom. They're not very good. They're good, but they're not very good. They're not. You would look at them and say, they got real problems in certain areas. So we know they don't have the ability to catch defensively is shakier than hell. You don't have an all-time great infield like you did a year ago. You had a great, and they suffer a little bit when we're judging these standards. They suffer because we can't help it. You're comparing to last year, and last year was so effing good. It's an impossible standard to try to hold up to, but they're not close to that, and they won't be. There's nobody on this roster that's going to make them that this year. Can they be good? Can they be pretty good? Yeah, there are nights they're really good, actually. There are nights where they make some big plays. I had a great double play last night. They're not bad. They're just not upper crust. And, I don't think their outfield defense is great. I'll tell you what.
Well, it'll be good to get Dowd back, obviously.
Very good to get Dowd back. What's emblematic of that outfield is the fact that they can make some wow plays here and there because there's speed out there when they're healthy. But they also make the silly, oh, really? Emblematic was Chase Williams nearly making a catch that very few people can get to, only to not make said catch, which, okay, tough play, only to throw it into the next county. He's lucky that this wasn't a guy trotting home on that throw. That throw is hideous. What the hell are we doing? So that's kind of emblematic of what they can be.
But it sounds like, sounds is the wrong word. It looks like with the pitching, the way that you saw it last weekend, and Beard coming back and more slotting where he needs to slot, and then Abraham.
Oh, yeah.
So now you've got potentially, and each weekend gives you new data, so you might sit back and be like, well, now this guy sucks out of nowhere. It's whack-a-mole. And there's baseball that's going to happen for any team. You could be the Dodgers, and you could have 3 of your 5 starters dominant, and they're all contending for pitcher of the month. And then the next month, they all kind of stink. And then the 4 and 5 starter are really good. So there's going to be ebbs and flows. But you can kind of see how this thing slots now, where It's how they had it sized up. Manka's going to be a big part of it because he wasn't available last night. They were hoping he was going to pitch last night. Rhett Vaughn obviously doesn't get out of the, one more, get one out of the game.
We may be done with that experiment.
It could be done with that experiment, but Abraham and Manka.
No. You're good. Listen, this is where I was going. To your point, I can see where you're going. Yes, there is a big bright side to all of this. The arms are lining up. I think you're still going to get more out of some guys you haven't gotten a lot out of.
Eagles been okay the last couple times out. Yep.
Yeah. I think you're going to be good. You're going to be okay there. The arms are starting to come. That was your initial concern. They're starting to show themselves. All right. I would argue that there are actually some areas that I think they can vastly improve in offensively. Kyle Fisher is lost. I mean, lost. And we know he can hit. I mean, that at bat, the strikeout on the middle breaking ball that is belt high in a big situation is as bad a swing as he's not put together, if you know what I mean. And that everything falls apart in that at bat. When he swings at that 0-2 pitch, that's a prayer. And it's middle. That's a ball that he should hit over the scoreboard. And his face, he's not even looking at the ball. He is looking down it's like lifting your head in a golf swing. It was something to behold. He's just not there right now. And if you go back, like just looking, I think that Brody DeLamielleure is going to be an everyday good player once he gets past this concussion situation. Stutzer is starting to hit the ball, and you see the dynamic athleticism in him. Eli Putnam is squaring up the baseball, and he's getting robbed left and right. I like Sheffield at DH. You've got other options there. Like you said, you're going to get your starting outfield back intact soon. You're going to be okay. You've got a couple of really weak hitters right now that are a little troubling. Like I'm not loving what I'm seeing out of a few guys.
But it's fine. You're getting the answers, and you're going to get healthy, like you're saying, with an intact outfield where you have Dowd and Brody D out there. Or the great thing is you can DH depending upon the splits, and you can slide Brody to be a designated hitter if you need to one day, and you get Sheffield out of there. Or you put Putnam in at DH on a given day. They're going to have to do the DH shuffle here based upon, I think, what side of the mound they're pitching from, and then the strength of the lineup and where they hit the ball in the spray chart. You're just going to have to get used to, I think, defensive alignments being fairly different day to day, but the core amount of names remaining in the batting order from day to day. There's an undertow going on right here that has me excited. I was speaking about that with the pitching staff, where things seem to be slotting and lining up in a pretty good place. I feel that way about the bats too. You just need a little bit of health now, because let's say that you do get a little bit more healthy in that outfield, and you have Dowd and Brody helping fortify the middle of the order. Yep. Putnam is now fortifying the middle of the order. I think we've made that argument. Miles is going to be Miles. Then when you add Fisher to that equation, and he comes out of whatever cold snap he's in, and Stutzer continues to improve, I mean, now you've got that musical chairs thing going on, where I've got not enough seats for all the bats that I want to get in the order. I think there's a real shot here. Defensively, it's just going to be what it is, which is
not good.
By Lester standards, way below. By Florida State standards, probably it's going to teeter between average to below average for the season. But I really like this little undercurrent of momentum that you have building here for both the order and the pitching staff. Feel a lot better about them than I did this time last week.
Yeah, and Sheffield hits the double last night, and then, of course, you get the 112-mile-per-hour laser off the bat of Miles Bailey, who's just a joy to watch. How about that kid who strikes him out in that crucial situation for them to get Miles in that situation? I'm not big for the theatrics from pitchers. We do it and other people do it, but I would have celebrated just as that kid did last night for striking out Miles Bailey on that pitch. I mean, that's not who you want to face in that situation with the game where it was. And for you to strike that guy out, you have done something, young man.
Yeah, fair enough, because you're afraid. That's your fear releasing from your body. I can understand that. Relief. It's the relief of the fear. I saw there was a guy in our camp yesterday who essentially pulled off the Frank Drebin Enrico Palazzo umpire celebration, and it wasn't even to end the game. And I'm like, okay, man, great.
Yeah,
Gonna have to deal with this with 2 on and 1 out in the 6th inning, are we? Okay, sounds awesome. Have you seen the kid in South Carolina?
No, I don't think so.
The Valentin kid? Oh my God!
No, I'll have to go
Take a look. It's South Carolina Clemson last week, buddy. It's a bad movie. It's Bill Murray in the bowling movie. It's insane.
Kingpin.
Thank you. I always get that confused with Bowfinger. I don't know why, but yeah.
Kingpin is decidedly better. I'll watch it.
It's like Volcano and Dante's Peak. I'm like, yeah, I know what genre it is, and it's just, is it Pierce Brosnan or is it Tommy Lee?
Well, I've been arguing for years with college baseball. You gotta let these guys hit people. They will never say that out loud, and they won't do it, and it's very penal if you get caught doing it, and that's why managers don't order it. But man, kids just doing they're just convulsing and humping the mound, and you've got backflips being done while the ball's in the air from hitters, people doing splits down the first baseline. Yeah, it's you're tap dancing at second for half an hour before you're around the bag. It's like just pointing to everybody. Like, who are you pointing to? That's a trend in baseball in general. In Major League Baseball, it happens. Who are we pointing to? I get the over-the-top religious people thanking God for home runs, like God cares who hits a home run or is against the other team somehow. But anyhow, you do your point to the heavens if you'd like. But the pointing to the stands thing, I have no idea about. They pointing out to right, pointing out to left, pointing over third base as they come around. Like, you strategically have friends and family placed in all these exact spots as you're rounding the bases, or are you just pointing to try to look cool? Round the bases, touch home, man. Tap your boys at the plate. Let's go. It's ridiculous. It is the old man moment that I will repeatedly stand behind. I'm not wrong on this. Stop doing that. You look ridiculous. And if you did do it in college the way that it's done, you need to be hit hard with a fastball in on your hands.
If you're going to do it, go all the way. Double middle fingers the whole time. Just hold your hand up. And then as you cross second, do a 360 with the double middle fingers, and then keep going.
It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Just so you know, it's not just because they're advertising with me, but because rather I use their products. Here you'll see the Harry's Plus razor. This is my own. You can get yours. They're great. Here's the old school Harry's razor. I've got that too. I've got them both. I love both. I switched to the Harry's Plus because, well, it's heavy, and I want a heavy razor. I want to feel like I'm in control and that this thing is doing some things. And Harry's is the best razor I've ever used. I had an old razor, spent way too much on refills, didn't like the system, didn't like the razor all that much, constantly searching. I saw Harry's. I got Harry's. I bought it. It's a barbershop quality shave, German engineered blades. Kind of fun to even say. Harry's owns their own world-class blade factory in Germany. It's true. They do. They're not having it. For the price, for the quality, for the feel, Harry's Plus is where it's at. Heaviest razor handle ever made from metal, never plastic. Designed to fit comfortably in your hand, and it does, and I use it every day. All of Harry's blades can be delivered right to your door. You don't have to go get them in the store. You can have them delivered at your house. For a limited time, our listeners can get the Harry's Plus trial set for only $10 at harrys.com/warchant. This set includes the all-new Harry's Plus razor, one refined 5-blade cartridge, a 2-ounce foaming shave gel, a travel cover to protect your blades on the go. I just brought mine down to St. Augustine with me. harrys.com/warchant to claim this offer. And after your purchase, they'll ask where you heard about it. Please support the Jeff Cameron Show. Please support Warchant by letting them know you heard it from us. Support our show. Tell them that we sent you. harrys.com/warchant. On the heels of Tom saying that if you're going to do it, go all the way, double middle finger the world as you round the bases, I'm reminded of an incident in professional football, which I doubt very seriously you saw. Do you remember? You will remember him because he played long enough. But do you remember Brian Cox former linebacker with the Dolphins.
Yeah, didn't he have a cup of coffee with the Jets too at some point in his career?
He did. He played for 2 years for the Jets. I went and looked it up during the break. I did not remember specifically how long he played for these various teams. I mean, he was also with the Bears for a year, the Patriots for a year. At the end of his career, he had a cup of coffee with the Saints. But the bulk of his productive play was with the Dolphins from 91 to 95. And back in those days, and Dolphins fans, you'll remember this, you guys actually made the playoffs back then. Used to be a thing. Go to the playoffs with the Dolphins and face the Bills and always lose to the Bills. And Thurman Thomas would run for 250 yards on the Dolphins defense. And I remember how frustrated everybody would be. Abel-Dadi was the defensive coordinator, I think, and Offerdahl. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of frustration over the years. But here's where I'm going with that. I always admired this one moment. I don't think I admire Brian Cox at all because I think he had all kinds of issues on and off the field. But on the field, when they walked out of the tunnel to face Buffalo, their nemesis, Buffalo, Tom, in Buffalo with the fans booing the Dolphins, Brian Cox walked out of the tunnel, double birds, and he did it proudly as he walked onto the field, and he held them aloft for a good couple minutes. There was no mistaking what was happening here. He was not, and I remember going, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Own it. Own it. That's all right. You are expressing yourself quite clearly, and there's no running. You own it. Put your name on it, baby.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I appreciate. I didn't like, but I appreciated about when Miami came to town in basketball a week ago, was they weren't afraid. And I know the one kid's local, so he's allowing all of his frustrations for not being recruited or paid enough by Florida State to come to the surface, whatever. But all of those kids looked at our student section anytime there was something physical, and they would look to the fans, the student section, and they would give you a little something extra. And you know what? As it should be.
As it should be. It's a rivalry.
Yeah. And in basketball, it really hasn't been because we won 15-16. But they wanted to end that. They were probably tired of hearing about that. So that's the way that it is expected to be when you have rivals on a playing surface against each other.
Yeah. But when you said that with the double bird, I'll never forget. That's the best double bird ever. Brian Cox walking out in Buffalo before that game. Nope, not having it. I know y'all are going to boo. Don't care. Get you some. He stood there in the tunnel while the fans leaning over while they're yelling at him. I was like, that is my man.
The thing that made me laugh most as a kid with the flicking of the finger, it wasn't Stone Cold Steve Austin. One would think it would be WWF. There's a South Park episode. I forget it's like an ancillary character. I think he's got like blue and yellow is what he's wearing. And he just loves to flip people off. That's what he does. And Mr. Mackey's like, hold on, young man. Did you flip me off? And then he does it again. Well, you can't do that. What are you doing? He does it again.
So, as an aside, I'll have you know that the gentleman I was apologizing to late last week, where I owned being a hater at the start of the show, heard the episode, and I ran into him yesterday at Capital City Country Club, and he said, thanks for the apology. He knew I was talking about him. How great is that?
Well, I'm glad he does, because that would mean that you were doing that to 7 or 8 people that brought up the bananas. So that you specifically know who he is means that you weren't serial destroying people's days by saying,
well, I mean,
dumbassery, get out of here with that.
I stand by my assertion about the bananas. I'm not backing off my take. That said, I hope everybody that went had a wonderful time. You and the old people and the children were all gathered to enjoy the spectacle.
And the program, the university made some money. That's the key there. Is that thing
sure as hell is, buddy.
That was sold the hell out. Looking forward to the financials on that.
Yeah, they should do a big truck thing, and they should do Pepsi commercial country concerts, and they should do what else is the in mass thing that people go to that I would hate. Savannah Bananas, bad country music, monster trucks. What else do we have?
You could put a fair out there. Like a state.
Well, we already have the fair, and the fair is kind of sacred here. We the fairgrounds. We know the fair.
You could have the Doak Fair.
I don't think it would draw enough. I like a good fair now. I haven't been to a fair in a long, long time, but I like a good fair, partly because, admittedly, I'm probably being judgy the whole time I'm at the fair, but I do like to go to there's always something weird at the fair that I enjoy taking in.
Well, you saw the layout of the field. Obviously, it's extremely shallow to right because the
200 feet, yes.
Angled. Yeah, but it looks like there's a little bit of space there, buddy, to tilt home plate a little bit back counterclockwise. That I think you might be able to pull off an exhibition game there. You erect a giant wall in right field. We have one in our home park anyway for Hauser, but you're able to maybe curve it around the way that the brick wall kind of curves around. I think you might have something there where if you just tilted it, I don't know, 5 degrees, 7 degrees from where it was, you might be able to get Florida State playing the Gators there in that stadium and do a one-off in the spring. I think that would be phenomenal.
Somebody asked yesterday in the chat, and I never got around to it, or the day before, Tom. I think it was the day before. It would have been. Why can Florida and Miami play a 3-game series, and Florida State and Florida can't go back to their 3-game series? And the reason I didn't answer the question is people are about tired of me talking about that over the years. It makes me sick. I remember the 6-game series with Miami, and I remember the 4-game series with Florida, and I absolutely loved the way they used to do it. They ought to do it again. I can't say it enough. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 4 games, back to back to back to back. 2 here. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. I'm answering a question, Tom. That's not fair. This was a brought up question, and I don't know the answer aside from, and it's always safe to do this, money. They want to go over there and do their big exhibition in Jacksonville, and and it sells out. There's over 10,000 people there, so that's what they do. But it's a bastardization of a once very proud series. It's unfortunate. It doesn't have to be. It ought not be. It ought not be. But there we sit every year at this time when we start thinking about that game going, well, hope you enjoy your one here.
Well, I mean, you could just rotate the 4 consecutive games across those 3 venues and play 2 in Jacksonville. Go crazy. Play 2 of the 4 in Jacksonville and go Gainesville, Jacksonville for 2 and close out in Tallahassee, then flip it the next year, start in Tallahassee, go out to Jacksonville for 2 and then play in Gainesville. What's so hard about that?
Well, I'm with you, buddy. I would do anything other than what they do. I would do anything but what they do. I remember how it happened and why it happened. And since that time, nobody has injected some common sense and just said, well, what are we doing, guys? We need to get back to playing, because it's really good for both teams. One of the things, in all honesty, one of the reasons that I loved the 6 games that we used to play against Miami, 3 here, 3 there, and spaced out as it was, those were the years where Miami was a perennial power and threat to win the World Series. And Florida State was searching for, and still are, unfortunately, their first ever World Series win. But they were on par with that Miami program. That's how good they were every year, 50-plus wins, just dominating, a lot of draft picks, et cetera. Everybody knows the history of the program. But you really got a sense of what you were. When you play somebody 6 times and you have your Friday, Saturday, Sunday starters in both series, you really got a sense of your bench. You got a sense of your bullpen. You got a sense of your starting pitching. Because if you were trying to gauge where you needed to be to compete and make a deep run and go to Omaha, you could tell. I mean, you went out, if you lost 5 games to 1 to Miami, you weren't good enough. You were going to get, beat. If you won 4 games to 2, 5 games to 1 against Miami, you thought, all right, there's no team that is appreciably better than the one we just beat 4 out of 6 times. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to face some good teams, but nobody is appreciably, if at all, better than that team.
I think the problem with scheduling Miami twice is that the ACC is too good at this point. And
right.
So you already have plenty in the way of a conference slate in terms of difficulty. The Florida one, you can easily stuff it in somewhere, maybe like this weekend, right, where you're playing Northern Kentucky. It would have to get done earlier in the year. That would be the one drawback, is if you saw them again, say in a regional or super or College World Series setting, you'd probably be a markedly different team than you were when you first played in the regular season. Because I don't think, then again, I should say I don't know for sure, But I don't know if the ACC is going to allow you to kick out a conference weekend and move it earlier in the season and then just stuff an opponent annually that's out of conference in, say, April or in May. But it would be cool. It would be cool to have back, especially right now, because we don't know what the hell we are. And this weekend, God bless it, against Northern Kentucky, I don't know that you're going to learn a ton. It's like football when we're actually good. All you can do is disappoint. You can't really impress because of the nature of the opponent that's coming to town.
I almost opted into old man voice. Oh, there was a time. There was a time when Florida State football ruled the land many moons ago, I tell you. What a sight to behold. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Man, I love calling out dumbassery when I see it. So we've got another candidate here high on the list of big-time dumbassery. And it's fun. It's fun when you see it. Braves fans, you've had a rough start to spring training, I got to tell you. It is, what are we talking about? A shortstop and 2 pitchers and now a left fielder? But the left fielder is high on the list of biggest moron we've had a chance to talk about in a while. If you didn't hear it, here you go. Jurickson Profar, who last year, that's right, missed the entire first half of the season. Why did Jurickson Profar, their big free agent signing, miss the first half of the season, Tom? Do you recall?
Does it have to do with needles and so forth?
It did. It had to do with performance-enhancing drug use indeed, I would assume. A needle was involved with all of that. He was suspended for 80 games. That was problematic for the Braves for a lot of reasons, because he's a good player, for starters. And secondly, they had acquired him, needed him, and then they also had a bunch of injuries. Could have used him at a time that they were beset by injury. But he was not available because he was suspended for 80 games because he got busted for using. Well, guess what? Here you go. He's been suspended for PEDs once again. That is a season-long suspension for the second one. 4 weeks prior to getting busted this time last year, this year, he decided, I'm all in. You're going to catch me a sooner. I won't get your hopes up, Braves fans. And he'll miss the entire 2026 season. Now, this is problematic because of a lot of things. He's 33 years old. So we're moving towards the end of a career. Now, you must understand something here. The beauty of being a baseball player, if you're good enough to make it to the major leagues, is that when you sign contracts in Major League Baseball, guess what? It's all guaranteed. It is all guaranteed. Ask the poor Anaheim Angels how much they had to pay Rendon's sorry ass over the course of that contract while he's out here hitting a $102, quite literally. $200+ million they had to pay him. It is maybe and arguably the worst contract ever given to a player. $240-something million that bum stole from the Anaheim Angels. Now, to his credit, never got popped for PEDs, showed up every day. It'd be akin to me showing up every day in the majors, but he did show up. He did show up. He didn't produce, but he did show up to earn his $240+ million contract. Whereas Profar will not be available to show up. And guess what? That is the only way that you don't get paid. It's the only time major league teams do not have to pay you. So, my man, you just cost yourself probably the last great contract and the money from it that you were ever going to make. He signed a 3-year, $42 million deal with the Braves prior to last season. It's the kind of money that changes your family's fortune forevermore. It was going to be the last big deal that he ever signed. And again, to reiterate, in Major League Baseball, these contracts are guaranteed, save for one thing you can't do. It's the only thing you can't do, and that is get caught for PEDs, because it's at that point you don't get paid. He surrendered $6 million last year He'll forfeit $15 million this year. And if they don't play baseball next year, which is entirely possible, it means the 3 years of the deal will see him get paid of the 40-something million dollars, less than $6. What are you doing?
I appreciate his commitment. He really wants to play baseball at the highest possible level that his body can, naturally or otherwise, play baseball.
Well, it's definitely otherwise.
And when he was told, you've done something illegal, he said, well, I can do it better. I can do it illegally, but better. Watch this. I appreciate the commitment. That is a combination of absolute devotion to playing the game the best you can, stupidity, and stubbornness. Good for you, Jurickson Profar. Good for you.
Man, it's brutal. And the Netherlands, the place that I was born, now loses out on Profar, whom he plays for, and was going to be a starter and one of their better players. He is not allowed to play in the World Baseball Classic. So he can watch the Baseball Classic like the rest of us. He'll do it $15 million poorer. He won't play any baseball this year. He's also ineligible for the postseason, although I'm not real sure the Braves are going there this year because, my goodness gracious, already they are littered with injury. Again, that's kind of it's been a running kick to the cojones for Braves fans these last two spring trainings. They've had a series of what is going on in Atlanta.
It's a strange thing when these developments happen. I can speak to it. When I was first on the air with you for many years, the Mets were the most injured team in the National League every single year. There's a key player, he can get hurt. That was just the way it was. Cost us a World Series in 2006. Directly cost us a World Series in 2006. But I feel bad for those of you, probably a very small amount of people, but that are both Braves and 49ers fans. Both of those allegiances, you are wearing it in an unholy way, and I'm not even trying to laugh at you. That's a tough break.
Oh, every day you wake up and check on your teams, and you're like, really? Oh, great. So our starting center's out for the season. It's the off season. What happened? He fell down steps? Are you kidding me? Yeah, it's brutal. Hour number 2, fourth coverage. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Hour number 2, Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Hope this finds you doing well on a Balls McWednesday. Switching gears from Florida State for a moment. Something that very much affects Florida State. Really, everybody that plays the game and everybody who is actively trying to keep up with the Joneses, which is everybody. At least if you care to play big-time college football and you ponied up after the house situation. So here you go. Louisville yesterday woke up and decided that they were worried about the federal antitrust law. University of Louisville president Jerry Bradley, AD Josh Hare, trustees Lawrence Benz released a lengthy statement. Tom, with a blunt title, buddy, college athletics is running out of time. You get kudos. You get kudos for that headline, by the way. I like that you got my attention immediately. Yeah, right out the gates.
I'm good with that. We like effective, short form, catchy titles. That could be the PR firm. That could be what we do for a living. We talk. So sometimes we have to stretch out what it is we like to say because there's a 45-minute landing spot for each hour. But if you don't have that type of problem, the fewer words you can say, the better.
Yeah, this is direct. This is succinct. This is to the point. It's something that a lot of people have kind of uttered or worried about or I think postulated. You know, we had people say, yeah, right now, there are a few programs that have the kinds of boosters that can play this game, you know, in perpetuity, but not many. And even those that don't want this because the second that one of those billionaires decides, yeah, I don't know, I'm not going to keep doing this, then you're in real trouble. So this is what it was. It was in essence a direct way of saying the math isn't going to work. Louisville Athletics spends $167 million a year. It brings in $155 million. That is a recurring deficit. Reserves that once stood at $34 million, according to the paper, are now down to $3.4 million. To deal with $20.5 million in new revenue sharing to pay athletes, the school took out a $25 million line of credit before the season. It'll help them get through next season. They say, yeah, we're going to play the game. We've got to play the game. We understand how the game works, and we've come too far, and we want to be involved. But we're worried about the then what stage. Like, we thought by now maybe we would have a better idea of how this was going to be regulated, what the parameters were going to be, that common sense would return to the sport, that there might even be somebody in a multi-billion-dollar sport that would have, a commissioner, a czar, NCAA would have some sort of authority, something would happen. Now, Louisville says this is more the norm than the exception. They weren't saying, hey, poor us. Ohio State reportedly lost $37.7 million in the same year that it won the national title 2 years ago. Penn State is carrying more than $500 million in athletics-related debt. That surpassed what Florida State announced. Now, some of that has to do with, obviously, seismic projects in which you anticipate the debt. Most of that will be paid for with the renovations and the exceptional things they've done to the stadium. But this is becoming more the norm, and they're pointing this out at a time where President Donald Trump was scheduled, and is scheduled, I should say, to host a March 6th roundtable at the White House. You've got commissioners from the ACC, the Big 12, Big 10, SEC to discuss NIL, transfer rules, governance, and all of that. Now, I don't know that is anything that's going to become of that. It is certainly a see and be seen sort of thing, and the reason seems to be obvious. But you're seeing college sports, college athletics becoming more and more part of the federal conversation, right? Like, what are we going to do here? Louisville, in their letter, argues that this isn't mismanagement, that instead it is structural, that the NIL rules differ from state to state. Mississippi passed a bill to exempt NIL earnings from state income tax. Tom, you see what they're doing there, don't you? I mean, that is the way that the Panthers and the Lightning try to win over free agents. You don't have to pay. There's no state tax here, buddy. You can make that same dollar amount that you're being offered at Anaheim, but it won't go as far in Anaheim as it will in Tampa. So that's what they're doing. And Mississippi says, oh, we'll get out in front of this. And that recruiting advantage built directly into a tax code, if you will. Other SEC states have already have no income tax at all, which you already know. Louisville says, look, this is all unsustainable. 50 states, 30-plus different NIL laws, constant litigation, no central authority with real enforcement power to speak of. They want three things: congressional action to create uniform national NIL rules and legal protections. They want a governing body that can actually, govern, whether that is a renewed and strengthened NCAA or something completely new. They're fine with that too. They say, you know what, if the NCAA is outdated and impotent, fine, bring in some other party. And they want a third thing, which is a hard and enforceable cap modeled after professional sports and professional leagues, because they describe the escalating financial arms race as unsustainable for the vast majority of programs in the country. And, they want fundamental reshaping of the college sports ecosystem. I think everybody does. I know Florida State desperately does, because they keep referring to things that are not enforceable as something that they're going to adhere to. I wish they would stop doing that. It makes them look broke and behind and weak. Don't say it, even if you believe it, even if you need it. Don't say it aloud every chance you get. Stop doing that. But as far as the long-term projections of this, Louisville, Florida State, and like roughly 90% of the people who've spoken publicly on this are correct. They're correct, in my opinion.
Well,
now, what I think is going to have to happen, Tom, and I go back to a pretty consistent talking point on my part. When you read lengthy articles in the Sports Business Journal or Front Office Sports, or you go back to what college football is missing, which is that they need to be under the same umbrella. This can't be, the power can't be with the conferences. It can't be. You're screwing yourself out of hundreds of millions of dollars. If you look at comparable contracts, something like the NBA, which signed an 11 years, $7 billion deal, and you see how poorly that product is currently received and how badly the ratings are tanking, and yet it has a seismic advantage over the money that college football is taking in. If you look at the NFL, which is its own monster, if you look at Major League Baseball and the direction it's going, when you're all under the same umbrella, the collective good wins and your contracts are massive compared to what college football is getting. But none of them believe it, or at least the two big ones don't believe that they'll be doing better if they bring everybody into the fold, package it, and sell it. Based on the ratings college football gets right now, they could be making roughly triple what they're making annually in TV rights deals, and that's where they need to go.
Well, the problem for those teams in the Big Ten or the SEC say, okay, well, we could make triple, but if we're welcoming in more than triple the teams to the conversation, I make less money on a year-to-year basis. Now, what you could argue with that is, yes, but you'll pace at a much higher rate in terms of your next deal and your next deal and your next deal. But they don't want to think that way. The problem I have with this, and Louisville, like we all agree that there need to be solutions found, and soon. And in this discussion, soon probably is defined as 3 years. You need something to happen in the next few years. The problem is what I'm hearing when Louisville is crying about this is we want our cake and we want to eat it too. So if you want congressional support, that means you're trying to circumvent unionization, right? The governance thing, I hear you 100%. Find the body, have an enforceable cap. Sure and sure. But if you're looking for some sort of congressional action to help you as it pertains to the system, that to me means we don't want to collectively bargain. Please don't make us collectively bargain. Anything but collectively bargaining. Congress step in and help designate this to be something else. You took the money decades ago. So now that you've taken the money and you've used it for your operation as a university, at some point, it's more than just about revenue share and shaving off a piece of the pie to the players. You're going to have to get to a place where I don't think Congress can take you. I think even if Congress created some sort of exemption for this system of student-athlete hybrid compensation, I still think you'd be challenged in the court system. I just wish this whole thing of legal challenges would move forward faster so that college athletics is painted into a corner. They have no choice but to go in one direction. If you give them options, they're going to choose ambiguity to allow them to line their pockets for longer. I think there's greed going on here by the institutions even still. You might say, greed, the players are finally getting a piece of the pie. The players would get a hell of a lot more if this thing went where collective bargaining is going to take it, and the universities don't want that.
Well, they don't, but I think they're starting to cozy up to the idea. I mean, they're talking about the 1961 Sports Broadcasting Act, for goodness sake. That's the law that allows the NFL to bundle its television rights under one package, and they can sell it in one package, and they get a lot more money for it, just like the NBA does, just like Major League Baseball can. But it doesn't work that way in college sports, and more of them want that. The SEC negotiates its own television rights deal. The Big Ten does this. The ACC negotiates its own television rights deal, and separate inventory. Everybody's selling separate inventory, but they're doing it in the same marketplace, Tom, and that's not good. That doesn't make any sense. You're costing yourself all kinds of money. I hope that we at least get that part of it down so that we are all under the same umbrella and the good of the sport rises together and everybody has the same to compete with.
Yeah, I agree. That's the goal. But to define there, let's just say you get there, quote unquote. All right, then who gets part of the revenue? Is it just football players? Is it football, basketball? Do you have to have Title IX provision? So you have football, basketball, plus the top two women's sports? Like, how many athletes get a piece of the pie if you unify your television contracts? Is the television contract unified for just football, and then everything else is on its own, and you negotiate for hoops and baseball and softball and soccer and Olympic sports and all that stuff? That's the hard part here. I think what's clear to me is if it was cheaper for the universities to just say, all right, the hell with it, let's go unionization, collective bargaining, and employment status, they would have already done it. They would stand to lose more money if they allowed for that step to be taken, which is where Louisville's coming. We want Congress to help us not have to go down that path. Greater revenues for universities that are have-nots would come with unified TV rights. I think we need to look at this, and I don't talk about this enough this way. Universities are operating in their best financial interest. What maximizes their dollars? Of course, we're trying to get out of the ACC because it maximizes our dollars. But on the other side of it, just because players are now getting a piece of the revenue share doesn't mean that that's still fair. That's still a fair amount of money that should be going to the players versus the university and the structure of the athletic department. And if you got to a place where football players were getting paid what they were actually fairly probably deserving, you'd have to contract sports. You'd have to turn these sports into club sports. And no athletic department, no athletic director, no university president wants the scarlet letter that is, I'm taking scholarships away from track athletes because I want to enrich football players. Even though that's probably a more honest accounting of the dollars, nobody gets a new contract doing that.
I'm going to argue that's exactly what Louisville is doing, is sending the warning shot. That the current model only works for the Big Ten and the SEC. Nobody else. The way that it's set up only works for the Big Ten and the SEC. It does not do a thing for anybody not in those conferences. The ACC and the Big 12 are screwed the longer this goes on. So is everybody else for sure. They never mention in that letter that they're going to cut sports. They're not saying that that is a specific consequence, but clearly they are saying in due time, that's where this will go. The only sports that have a chance to survive with this is football and basketball. When you start talking about sustainability or the inability to sustain, when you talk about structural reform, which is in that letter, that is exactly what you're saying. You're saying that at this point, you're looking in the future and there is not going to be women's sports, Olympic sports, that you're going to contract sports. In order to compete, that's what you're going to have to do.
Yeah, not in mass. And that's the problem here, because now you're going to run into Title IX suits. But that's where I think talking this out, this is why I enjoy doing these exercises. Reclassification of football is one of your pathways out. Honestly, reclassification of football, it will shield you from Title IX, especially if you're giving employment status, and you could say, well, the rest of these opportunities are scholarships and student athletes. All right. And we might give them some stipends and some cost of living like we talked about 10 years ago, which is, they weren't getting enough food. All right. Now you got unlimited meal plans and $1,000 a semester. There you go. But for football, because they're bringing in a ton of revenue,
right,
we've classified them into this other thing. It's not the same as college sports. It's name something, make a catchy name out of it. That's probably the pathway out of this. But you're going to have to contract sports. You could argue that for decades that athletic departments have swelled to a program of so many sports that would not have ever existed without the revenues generated by football or basketball television contracts, depending upon what university you are. In the same way that chocolate fountains and water slides and laser tag and video game rooms would not have existed in the football specific facilities, there are probably 6 to 10 athletic programs that never could have also existed because of how much money football brings in. But once you took the money, you started this conversation. So it gets dicey. No athletic director ever wants to, have a press conference and say, well, in order to make sure that football players are paid equitably, the following sports are going to be cut in the next 24 months. And then they read a laundry list of 6 sports. That's no way to go get an extension to a deal, man.
Speaking of money and how it's parsed and who gets it. Well, Curt Cignetti got even more again. Indiana likes this kicking ass at football thing, Tom. They just got done giving this man $1 gazillion. They decided to give him more. He was on the right end of the announcement that came out yesterday from Indiana that the two-time National Coach of the Year has signed a memorandum of understanding on an 8-year contract extension, paying him annually an average of $13.2 million. That is an increase of about $1.6 million per year to what he was already getting. That from the school and the officials when they extended and gave him an agreement, what was it, in October. So now they're giving him more. He signed this new one in February. He joins Kirby Smart, Lane Kiffin as the only active football bowl subdivision coaches to receive paychecks north of $13 million. I'll tell you, here's something I will agree with you on, buddy. That Lane Kiffin, he's got a good agent, doesn't he? Because when you say Kirby Smart, you go, well, you know, they kind of whoop ass every year and won multiple national championships. And when you say at this point, Curt Cignetti, he is the back-to-back coach of the year and just went 16-0 at Indiana, won the Big Ten title along the way by defeating Ohio State, who, oh, by the way, at the Combine has Ohio State fans wondering, how come we lost? We have better players than everybody in football. This Combine just proved that not only do we, ours are all freaks of nature. They're all incredible. Our receiver, our safety, our linebacker, our edge rusher are all doing things athletically that nobody in the history of the Combine have ever done. Why couldn't we score against Miami? What is going on here? Why did Indiana beat us in the Big Ten? Damn it, man. Ryan Day, a year after winning a national championship, is right back in the crosshairs after that Combine. I mean, there are like 9 Ohio State players that are throwing around 40 reps at 225 and running 4 threes.
Yep. And then in the entirety of his career, you have Lane Kiffin, who has a third of the meaningful wins in his whole career that Cignetti has in the last 2 seasons. And certainly not the biggest one, the most meaningful win that you would think he would be deserving of that type of salary. However, you know, it's one of those things that we need to remind ourselves, buddy. And I think this speaks to the discussion we had on Tuesday's bonus hour as we're talking about the threshold for Mike Norvell to be replaced or not. We've got plenty of money because I guess we were willing to fork out $12, $13 million a year for Lane Kiffin and whatever staff members he needed. So, you know, that's something to remember here, that we were willing to go for the going rate with Lane Kiffin to come to Tallahassee.
I laugh every time I think about it. That was such an ill-advised effort from the AD, calling in a favor for that story to be written, and then saying that, you know, well, we made a good go of it. We didn't like the other candidates, but we liked Lane, and we tried to lure him in here, and never thinking that we wouldn't like call the bluff and say, well, wait a minute, A, that doesn't seem realistic, and B, you just told us that it wouldn't be financially responsible to do any of those things, and Lane is getting paid over $13 million a year, and oh, by the way, he was promised a ton more than that on top of the rev share for NIL, and they stated it publicly. So you were willing to do all of the things you say are illegal?
Well, no, absolutely we were. I mean, you know, because for Lane Kiffin, that's a special circumstance. The rules change for Lane Kiffin. You know why? Because he's really good at Twitter. He's really good at Twitter.
Well, I think we're on the extremes here. I think Lane's a very good football coach, but I just think that the whole thing is laughable. Like that, I don't understand why you wouldn't have had the foresight to say, I probably shouldn't ask for that story to be written. Because people are going to go, well, wait a minute, we either do or we don't have the money.
Right. Yeah. You think it's a feather in your cap, and you're like, huh?
No.
Sir, it's not a feather in your cap at all. In fact,
no, it strikes me as untruthful.
Or an indictment of no value judgment whatsoever within the scope of the athletic department, because you either have it or you don't. Do you have it? Yes, but no. That was their answer.
Yeah, no, I laughed at that, but Lane understands the current system and how it is you get a leg up. And it's because you can spend more and you have a willingness by the university and the people closely associated with raising money for the university to do all of these extra things. And they sure as hell ain't worried about NIL go. It's Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Football was not embracing aggressively what's happening with NIL in college football. And the reason it was a problem that we were slow to come around is we didn't pivot in time to start building the relationships with the agents that now represent these kids. And Florida State was no longer seen as a destination school for those that have a chance to make good money because they're wanted by any number of other programs that are willing to pony up and find the money. However it is, they are. But I think what's interesting is NACOS had an article on On3, and I think it came out a week or so ago. And in that article, you'll see anything from the top spenders that were out there, the 14 Power 4 GM managers and staffers that On3 spoke with. 10 mentioned that LSU was the top spender in the transfer portal. Obviously, that's with Lane Kiffin. We were just talking about him. You looked at the numbers for quarterbacks. You looked at the other programs that were spending a lot of money: Miami, Texas Tech, and Texas. Of course, obviously, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Indiana are now part of that too. I don't really care that, Darian Mensah or Sam Levitt or Brendan Sorsby are all reported to make, $5 million or more. We weren't going to be part of that. I actually kind of find some of that silly, unless you have a team built to win the national championship. Like, you are one guy away at the most important position. I don't want to throw $6 million out there for anybody to play quarterback in college. I better know they're freaking Jameis Winston if that's the case. The non-quarterback spending was Cam Coleman and guys like that. Got it. But I thought the most interesting part was the question was asked to the GMs, the 12 different GMs they talked to. Do players know their transfer destination before they ever enter the portal? And this goes back to a steady talking point that we've had on this show for a while, which is how Florida State has to change their reputation to open the door with more agents directing their clients to a place like Tallahassee. And the only way you do that is to embrace what is, not what you wished would be. And I am hoping certainly that transition has now taken place. We won't know until the next portal window, the next time that this all happens, who visits, who's coming into town to talk. Do you get more than just a name or two at the position? Do you have a lot of the biggest names entertaining the idea of going to Florida State? Because this was a response from a Big 12 GM. A good bit of them know where they're going. A good indicator, honestly, is where they visit first. I'd bet that whoever gets the first visit has like a 60% chance of landing the kid. He's going on the visit to shut it down and get down to business right then and there. An SEC GM said they have a really good idea because, of course, their agents have been shopping them around. Right, all along. Went on to say that despite pre-portal tampering, nobody can feel good about landing a player until the paperwork is actually signed. You can feel good about getting a kid, but once they actually go in the portal, you still have to get them to actually sign to feel real good about it. I don't think we brought in a lot of guys who went on multiple visits. I can tell you that. Everyone does it a little differently, but you have to do it. You don't get a one-and-done visit guy with light work before the portal. Yeah, they're pointing out most of the time everybody has an idea of the 2 or 3 teams that are ready to play ball, that are in business to do business. And we're going to get you to them almost immediately.
It's the modern day equivalent of often when you saw, I'll speak to Jimbo's era because that's the era that I first covered. You'd see him in a setting like a booster event, or hell, he'd be doing an interview with you on a Sunday night. And he's like, hey, I got to take a break. Hang on real quick. I got a call that I have to take.
Right.
That was often either a high school coach, the player themselves, a prospect for 2 years down the line, perhaps a middleman that was letting you know how a kid was interested. So it was about a high school kid that, look, I'm only going to get this call once a week. And if I can finalize a visit, a detail of this or that, I got to take that. I'm going to continue the interview, or I'll be back to this booster event in just a moment. Give me a moment. Now those phone calls are with agents of college football athletes. You might have that same scenario with a Mike Norvell or a Kiffin or a Day or whoever you want to point out, and they got to leave the room. It's not necessarily to talk to, Cook County High School and the 4-star kid that's coming down the pike in 2 years. It might be an agency that wants to tell you that, hey, coming up in 5 months, this kid's contract expires. We have it on a November to a November thing. We're going to shop the market, but we wanted you to be first to know that this is the asking price. His stats are going to back it up. Are you interested? Do you have the money to do it? All right. That conversation is now, it's funny how that there has been an evolution there. Coaches have always worked the phones. It's just the people on the other end of the line are very, very different now.
You reminded me of a hilarious story and a moment that I was probably most uncomfortable with when I was at Clear Channel, and I believe, were you there for that, the time that Jimbo ghosted us? I don't think you were.
No, yeah, I was. There's actually a story that I don't even know that I feel comfortable telling yet regarding that.
Well, so the one I'm referring to at the university.
This is before a spring game. We had a pregame interview with him that he just didn't show for. And it was like once or twice.
Well, we were having a luncheon for Clear Channel.
I was there for that. Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
So he was the featured speaker. I was to introduce him. The reason that luncheon existed was because of the sponsors who helped pay for the contract that Clear Channel had to run Florida State football. So you have, so you pay for the rights to run the games. And whatever that number might be, 300,000. 1 year I was there. 1 year it was reduced to 100,000. Another time that I was there early on, it was $700,000. It was way back when. The whole media landscape has changed a lot. But I believe at this particular time, Clear Channel was paying $300,000 for the rights to run Florida State football. Now, obviously, if you're going to stroke a check for $300,000, you got to sell more than $300,000 worth of advertising in order to pay for that, or you're just operating at a loss, which is not good. So it was up to the sales staff to go out and make sure they were able to accrue that kind of money. And ideally, you'd like to make a profit. So you'd like to think that if you were the license holder, you'd make $400,000 or $500,000. And then therefore you've got a tidy profit for your $300,000 investment. Well, most people get how the game is played. If you're going to have a luncheon with all the people that have bought in to pay for said contract, it's cool if the head coach will come and say thanks. It's cool if the head coach comes, shake some hands, kiss some babies, and maybe work with their radio partner so that everybody's happy and we can continue to keep playing ball. So he agrees to do the luncheon. I'm told that I'm going to introduce him since I'm the one who interviews him every Sunday and knows him best, at least amongst those people at Clear Channel, certainly, and that I can answer any questions beforehand. All right, well, so here we are. We're all set to go. Mike Martin is there. Mike Martin Jr. is there. Brooke Wyckoff was there at the time. Others were there. A lot of people representative of baseball and football and basketball and all the sports are going to be there for anything that we might run. Well, Jimbo's unhappy with the way things are going in practice and decides, I don't have time. I'm going to have to continue to work with these guys because we're not where we need to be. And he's running late. I'm told by the organizers at that point, he's got a lot of important calls to make, Tom, to your point. There are a lot of people he's still trying to lock up, and it's all part of the bigger picture. And he could be difficult that way, but, I'm thinking he'll show, so he's going to be a little bit late. That's just a great opportunity to mingle. We'll shake hands, kiss babies. I'm talking to all of the sponsors, many of whom advertise on the Jeff Cameron Show, shaking hands, thanking them for being there, being a dutiful representative of 1270 at the time and Clear Channel as a overall employer. And 15 minutes goes by, 20 minutes goes by, and I finally have the guy come over and say, yeah, he said, would you rather me win football games or speak at a luncheon? Okay. Now all of the people have finished their food. They've probably had 3 and 4 glasses of water. what does it say we do here?
Right.
We got to get back to work.
Right. It's a luncheon. It's not a boozy evening happy hour affair. So there is punctuality that is expected. Did he send Stoops? What did he do? I thought he sent Stoops.
He sent somebody over, but it was I don't think it was that high on the list. I think it was well down the list. And all I remember is that I was told that I had to take to the dais and try to entertain the masses. Well, what do you want me to say? Whatever you can think of. We need you to talk. So I had to stand before the assembled group and just start talking about Florida State football as if I were on the staff, and just talked obviously about what I knew and what I didn't know and my experiences with it. For like 30 minutes, I had to talk at this luncheon to all these advertisers who were there to see Jimbo. Not me, Jimbo. And that wasn't fun. I did it, but I was resentful. Very resentful. And alas, I remember turning and whoever it was, special teams coordinator so-and-so is here to talk more about how practice is going. Yeah, that was rough, Tom. You just reminded me of it. That's a fun trip down memory lane. I can still see the empty stares of the people who at first were amused and even enjoyed some of my anecdotes. About 10 minutes in, they're like, is Jimbo coming to the like, what are we doing? Like, Jeff's just up here tap dancing.
Well, and if he became our head coach again, like so many of the fan base seemingly wants to, because they bought the Crocodile Tier Act at the ACC kickoff or the ACC pregame thing, he could blow off yet another meeting in the near future. But this time it would be to talk to agents, because there's a kid at Hobart, Jeff, that really he's secured representation, and he could play right guard for you. But you need to act now. It's August the 31st. You must act now.
Well, I would want him to talk to those agents and not the collective advertisers at a luncheon, because the sport has changed so much anymore. I don't need you to placate them. Legends should be doing their part. You just need to be over here making sure we accrue players at this point. It's all on the up and up now. It's out in the open. We're going to pay these players money. Please talk to their agents.
Stadium rights any day now, buddy. Any day.
The big one we all know that we're waiting on is the whole Seminole Hard Rock thing. I mean, that's what we're waiting on.
They advertise a lot of places.
I mean, that has to be the one, right? That has to be the big one. It's probably, as I understand it, the argument isn't about a certain amount of money, although that is always going to be discussed, but rather how much for how long. The duration of the deal is what's debated here. But man, we need the influx of cash now.
Well, if you were in a position to negotiate, perhaps you'd have another suitor that would drive the negotiations to help you. It sounds like you got a one-bid deal, and now they're realizing. Now, this is all hearsay. Honestly, don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But the rights have been available for a while. You know, the Zillow, if you will, on Doak Campbell, I don't know that it's going up or going down as time passes and it's not sold. I don't know what the Zestimate might be on what it would cost to put your name on the stadium. If you had multiple bidders, you could charge more.
If you won some games, people might clamor to do so, Tom, but it's the winning of the games that are at issue here. Maybe
you could have like a 10-win look-in provision added to if we win 10 games, we want to look in on that price.
Yeah. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. No shortage of the free agent primers out there, everybody. If you're an NFL offseason guy like me, now's your time, man. There was a cool article yesterday Garrett Podell put out about the number of basically describing we're going from 0 to 100, as you guys have seen in the last 24 hours here, because yesterday at 4 p.m. was the deadline for all 32 teams to decide whether or not to utilize a franchise tag or a transition tag. And pending free agents are allowed to talk to other teams. So, by the way, the NFL's season, if you will, begins at noon March the 9th. It ends at 4:00 p.m. Eastern time on March the 11th. So you get an idea that as we sit here on the 4th, that in the next 7 days, you're just going to see, and you're already seeing it, but like you go through and look, I'll start at the top. So the Arizona Cardinals, just in terms of unrestricted free agents, like go through the list of each team. Start with it. Go with Arizona, Atlanta, go to Baltimore. If you do it all in alphabetical order, and it's crazy how many really good players are available. Now it's just a matter of whether or not you want to pony up, you want to build that way. Do you want to go through the draft? How do you want to build your team? But it also had the effective cap space. So somebody like Arizona, who Tom considers to be obsolete, does have, $20 million in cap space. Atlanta, for example, only $7 million in cap space. Baltimore, $10 million in cap space. The teams that don't have any, now that's fun to watch. The Bears, for example, are an up-and-coming team, but they've got to get cap compliant and in a hurry. And they are currently over the cap by $10 million. So get ready to watch movement there. Effective cap space currently, Tom, Cincinnati's got $43 million. Cleveland, who has locked up an offensive lineman yesterday, have 4 more to lock up because all of their offensive linemen were unrestricted free agents. So they've got to find a way to field an offensive line, especially since, they're not any good and they have a bunch, like a bevy of young quarterbacks, unless they plan on starting Deshaun Watson. But like the Dallas Cowboys, Tom, are $63 million over the cap. That's a toughie.
Yeah, and Jerry was just quoted saying that they're going to be one of the most aggressive spenders this offseason. I don't know how. That's going to be very interesting.
Well, they're going to cut a boatload of people is what they're going to do and try to save money there. By the way,
that sounds like restructuring Dak's deal because they just gave him the deal, but if you restructure it, you create void years and all that kind of stuff. You probably can whittle that down in terms of his hit this year.
The Jaguars, unfortunately, while up and coming, are a team that is $18 million over the cap. Now, that's going to be the Travis Etienne question. You probably let all those other guys go, but Kansas City's up against it. They're going to cut their tackle, but dude, they're $13 million over. Nobody, and that is even after they got the break from Patrick Mahomes. They still have issues. They still have issues, and none of us are sad to see it. Would it entice you, like if you had a choice to be a coach at a few locations, would you be intrigued by the idea of being the new head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders? The reason I asked the question, they have $74 million in cap room.
Yeah, no, I would not be interested.
But you're going to have a quarterback-friendly deal.
Yep.
You're going to bring in a guy that, at least initially, will be beloved. You have the free agent money. You have the money to go out and rebuild an offensive line. You have the best tight end in the league, and you have an emerging running back. Vegas is an interesting market, man. They want a reason.
Look, they're an interesting team, but would I want the job if I was qualified in that field? No, there's a Davis running the team. And ESPN just got done. One of their good investigative reporters just got done penning 2,500 words about how dysfunctional that was behind the scenes, that they even brought Pete Carroll in the first place and the things they empowered him to do without there being absolute structures between the Davis part of his office and the football operation. No, but we know that family traditionally wants to meddle in football operations. I love that they've got cap figures and they've got room. That division's really tough to climb in and out of right now, out of the cellar, I should say, because Denver is in a great spot. Kansas City will reload, and they've got a really good quarterback, and maybe they're mediocre, but for them, mediocre is like 10 wins, 11 wins. And then the Chargers aren't going anywhere anytime soon. I would need Davis to either put in writing or that he's going to stay away, or maybe pass away before I get involved in that organization with
Can
$100
you
million
imagine the way that was phrased? I know what you meant, but the way that was phrased, like, can you put in writing that you're going to pass away?
Yeah,
that you're going to die here soon?
Apparently, he's really easy to get along with and fun and all that kind of stuff, and that's how he can survive having a bowl cut and have people still want to hang out with him. But, man, that family is just the worst when it comes to running organizations.
Well, I mean, Al was very successful until he wasn't. But, yes.
But, I mean, the entirety that I've been sentient on this earth, they have been little to nothing, save for the blip that they got right with Gruden, and then they traded him away.
To us, and then we beat their ass in the Super Bowl. By the way, I would point out, here's your path to saying yes to that job, and you bring up valid concerns. But a lot of people, and this is one of the reasons people complain about the whole television contract, most people think Tom Brady is now running that organization. And if I could sit down with Tom Brady and get some assurances that I'm, in essence, reporting to Tom Brady, who's got a handle on Mr. Davis, then okay, because I would want to work with Tom Brady. I would.
I would if he wasn't split attention, but the problem is he's got his hand in so many corporate interests on top of his Fox gig. How many hours is he really spending on the organization? That was part of that investigative reporting, which is like he's kind of there.
Well, he can't be there based on the rules. So he's got to figure out what he wants to do, and he's got a very sizable contract with Fox, obviously. So I think in due time, Tom Brady's going to want to be more involved with the football than he is the play-by-play or the color analysis. So I would try to want those kind of assurances. Can I work with you? I mean, Tom knows football, and he's also been around an organization that was at its peak, probably as well run as any organization in the history of football. So I'd want to do that. I would maybe think about that. By the way, the Patriots, speaking of which, they've got $36 million in cap room. But Tom, it is our annual joy, the smile on our face. Saints are still $18 million over the cap.
That they are. They have, I think, one more round, and then they're good to go. One more go of it in the next calendar year, and then they finally get a fair fighting chance, which you have to say if you're a Saints fan, and I have to give it to them as much as I don't like that fan base because they turned into the lovable underdog to somehow entitled as the Packers out of nowhere. And I don't know how that happened, but they have done a very good job in the last calendar year of stabilizing that organization to where you feel like they might be able to succeed in a couple of years. It felt like it was going to be into the 2030s before they were good again. They're off the mat now. They are not face down in the muck anymore.
One more year of face down in the muck, please, so we can get our ship operating properly. One more down. One more year in the muck, please. Final hour, fourth company. Stay with Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Bonus hour, final hour on a Ballsmick Wednesday. Thanks for tuning to the Jeff Cameron Show on 93.3 FM, Real Talk Radio, and Warchant TV. Way to support local. Appreciate you doing that. Florida State plays basketball. 2 games left. Man, imagine where we were, buddy. Florida State was 0-5 in the ACC. They make a shift in what they're trying to do. They make adjustments on the fly. They figure out a better way to utilize the talent. They're able to reach some other guys on this team that at that time really weren't giving you much of anything. And with 2 games left in the regular season, Florida State has qualified for the ACC tournament. Now, most years you'd say, good on you, but we want a lot more. But when you are year one, makeshift roster, put together a staff, all hurried in nature, and you get off to the poor start that they did in league play, and you're on the wrong end of ungodly record-setting beatdowns in some cases where you look completely inept. When you juxtapose that 0-5 with that information, with where we're at now and what they've done by qualifying for the ACC tournament, and the fact that they're 8-8 in the league, you really can say job well done, Luke Laux, job well done, staff so far. They sit in a 3-way tie for 8th place in the league. They play Pitt tonight. Then they're home against SMU this weekend, this Saturday. If you win both, you have a shot at earning a bye in the first round of the ACC tournament, which is crazy to think about. It's cool to talk about what they've accomplished. And I think Luke's approach, he's quoted in a story on warchant.com you can read right now. I never want to have elephants in the room. I try to address everything black and white, good and bad. It doesn't really matter. I try to address it with the team because I know they're all thinking about it. We're thinking about it, so why not talk about it? I try to find moments a few times a week to address what everybody's thinking, good or bad. One of those things is the conference race. Right now, there's a traffic jam of teams all fighting for the same thing. So I want to stress to them the importance of taking care of every single moment that we have left in the year, because the reality is that seventh place is still available. We need some things to happen to get that seventh spot true, but if we take care of business, we'll be right there. Currently, Louisville is 9-7, alone in seventh place. And if you told me, Tom, that at any point this year, Florida State might be able to track down or have a chance to track down both SMU and Louisville, given the way we were playing, I would tell you no way in hell. And yet that is a distinct possibility.
It is. Louisville now 10-7 after beating Syracuse last night.
That's
However, if you go head-to-head with Louisville at 10-8, you would win the tiebreaker, because by definition, Louisville would have lost to Miami on Saturday. It's their last game of the year. And they had lost to Clemson. And the way that a two-team tiebreaker works in the ACC is you look at record against the best opponents. You look at the record against, and you go down the line, because they're winless like we are against Duke, against Virginia, against North Carolina. Then you get to Miami, they would have been 0-1. We would be 1-1 against Miami. So we would have a head-to-head nod over Louisville. The problem is you also have to factor in where NC State falls in this, and if it gets to a three-team tiebreaker, then you could break out the Lou Holtz sound. And I won't bore you and glaze over your eyes with all of that. But just understand that if Florida State wins out this week and Louisville loses, if it's between the two of them in the standings, Florida State would get the tiebreaker according to ACC procedures.
And you get the added bonus of cozying up tonight at home if your eyelids will stay open. 9 p.m. on the ACC network, buddy. There you go. You get to embrace the joy of the ACC network at 9 o'clock. Something tells me that I'll be watching the second half of Florida State Pitt tomorrow morning at 5:30. I think that's probably how that's going to go. These days, I don't run from it. I don't want to fall asleep in the middle of it. What happens to me on game nights that begin at 9 effing p.m. is that I have the best intentions. I start out in the TV room, as we call it in the Cameron household, because of the 100-inch behemoth that we all gather to watch our Noles. And by all gather, me and Bryce. And so we'll watch, and I'll get into it, and then I'll say, I really need to go to bed. And I'll go to the back. If it's a good game, I won't fall asleep. Much to the chagrin of my wife, the game will remain on, and I will sit up in bed, and I will interact with the TV in every play and every moment of the game until it concludes. Or if it's terrible and we're losing and not playing well, I'll view it as bad luck, and I'll say, well, I'm just bad luck. And it gives me the excuse to turn it off and go to sleep. And then I'll get up in the morning and watch if we do anything good.
Yeah, for your boy, it'll be Resort Bar tonight. I will be at the Resort Bar watching this. And then I do know that the hotel room does carry the ACC network, which I'm sure brings tens of dollars to us in terms of the university's television contract, that a random place in Orlando would have the ACC network. But I do know this. I do know this for a fact. So I'll be watching it as I fight away the heavy eyes myself. 9 o'clock tips are just something else. If you can make it to halftime, or should I say the start of the second half without yawning, you're going to make it. The whole problem is, even if they go to the halftime break and you've been good so far, one little and you're dead, man. You got no shot to make it.
Well, you've got a much better shot than the rest of us. You're going to be at a bar. I mean, I am always of the I just got a shot in the arm feeling when I'm at a restaurant or a resort bar or on the beach or something. I can make it then. Hell, they can tip that bitch off at 10. I'll be all right. But 9 is at the house where there's, a couch and a blanket.
I'm not trying to close down the Resort Bar either, though. That's the whole thing. You got to save up for the next day. This is what I'm learning as I'm getting older. Is like, the gas tank, you need to keep a little in reserve for the next day.
I don't know, Tom. You've got the whole day off tomorrow. If you needed to, you could sleep till noon. I don't want to hear it. You party and you get after it and have a good time and celebrate a Noles victory on the road into the wee hours at the resort bar if need be. Around for everybody on behalf of Florida State's big win against Pitt.
Hey, everybody. Florida State is not going to be under 500 in ACC play. Everybody drinks on me. Hey, everybody. Florida State basketball could not finish worse than 500 for the entirety of the season with a win tonight, because you go 16-14. Worst you can do is lose to SMU and get bounced in the first round of the ACC tournament. You'd be an even 16-16. Now, you could put that in jeopardy by going to Vegas, but I'd be willing to put that in jeopardy for going to Vegas for whatever that little Fox Network challenge thing is.
Yeah, it's the CBAB, RBI, whatever.
The CBAB 0.32 BAC on the crap tables. Yes, absolutely.
Hey, by the way, somebody got transition tagged yesterday. You don't see it. What?
Oh, I thought you were asking me. Daniel Jones. Yeah.
No. I know who it was. I was going to tell everybody, but I wanted to bring up the fact that transition tags are very rare. And I have to tell you that I'm a fan of the transition tag. I transition to tag the hell out of my guys. They'd get tired of it because it's $6 million less than if you franchise tag them, first of all. So you're saving a lot of money. Secondly, you get the opportunity to match. So if somebody decides that they'll come up and pay what you're not willing to pay, and then you really do want them, then you can match it, and they have to stay. So no, I'm transition tagging all those asses. You're all getting transition tagged. I'm not franchising nothing. Yeah, I'm saving $6 million ahead on this thing, man. We're not doing it. But yes, Daniel Jones did get transition tagged yesterday, and it allows teams to retain a player while letting the market set their value. And that is the perfect use of the transition tag, because if you think about Daniel Jones, how the hell do you figure out what his market is? He just tore his Achilles. He has largely been a bum in his career until he wasn't. Then he was really good. Through 8 games, he was awesome. He was on course to win the MVP of the National Football League last year at one point. Steichen and the Colts had found their answer after all this time. Dude was running around making plays. He was accurate. He was emboldened. He was confident. He had all the things going for him, and their offense was perfect for him. I love that offense, by the way. Anyhow, that's an aside. He had the weapons, and then, it's gone. I just tore my Achilles, and you saw the look on his face as he stared off in the distance and sat down on that field, and I felt sorry for him because that's the first time he's ever been good in pro football, and he was really good. Not just good, really good, and it's gone. I don't know what to do with Daniel Jones, and teams don't either. You look at it, you think about the Minnesota Vikings. So I have a question for you. Would you pursue Daniel Jones after a thorough physical or Kyler Murray? F Kyler Murray's sorry ass. He can't play. I don't get this. I have a real problem when a player is marginal at best. He has electrifying moments, but he is still 5'6" or whatever he is, and he has moments where he gets completely taken out of games, where they keep him in the pocket. So he's aging, and all of that athleticism isn't going to be there, and then he's just going to be a 5'6" pocket passer. Good luck with all that. Anyhow, I can't stand the idea of, going after a player whom the previous team not only is just straight up cutting, but had to put a clause in his contract demanding that he go to practice and spend more time watching film. Sir, this is not what we do. That is in the actual written contract. They think so little of your work ethic that they had to put a clause in your deal that you're going to try hard. This is a Jimbo Fisher promissory note.
Well, yeah, it's because of the video games. He loved to play the video games.
At all times.
The whole thing. Now, here's the problem. It's a sliding scale here, because if they transition tag Daniel Jones and you got to come up in the world to pay him, you're looking at, thorough physical or not, guaranteeing him probably multiple years. I don't know the rule there. Can you go 2 or 3 years and then they have to match $35-40 million for him?
So
or you get Kyler Murray for the minimum because he's going to play at a low level this year, and you could fortify your ranks with tens of millions of dollars elsewhere against the cap. That's where this, if it was an even dollar argument, it wouldn't be an argument. But because you can get Kyler Murray for pennies on the dollar because he's owed, I think, $50 million this year, it's some absurd amount by the Cardinals.
Yeah, they've decided they're just going to wear it this year, and that's it. That's all. They don't want to do the multiple year thing.
And apparently he's game with doing a 1-year deal to make the next contract happen. So he's betting on himself, which you like. You don't have to marry yourself to him for multiple years. If I can have $30 million to go get the roster better elsewhere and get take a flyer on a kid who's at least produced 2 out of the last 5 years have been pretty good versus $35 million for a kid coming off of an Achilles. And I don't know how Daniel's going to be as a player if he doesn't have his mobility. That's actually a tough quandary to be in. I think I'd lean Kyler Murray if those were my only 2 options.
Well, okay, that's a key to the conversation. If those are your only 2 options, I suppose. But there's zero chance that I'm getting in bed with Kyler Murray. I cannot bring a quarterback in who I don't think has much upside moving forward in his career. The older he gets, now this is not always true, by the way. Somebody's going to say, yeah, Jeff, the older anybody gets. Nah, not necessarily. In quarterback, where you're so protected by the rules, we see quarterbacks now playing at 38, 39, 40, 41, 42 years old. As long as you keep them upright and have a decent offensive line, if they still have the ability to read a defense, process information quickly, and throw it accurately, they can be really, really good, sometimes even better because of all that experience. You can't fool them. You know, there are quarterbacks you watch, you're like, oh, well, he's seen it all. You're not going to fool his ass. So unless arm strength is a problem, you know, he's going to be fine. Kyler Murray's not that guy. He's not sitting there picking people apart because he's preternaturally gifted at reading defenses and processing information and firing from the pocket every hour of every day. That's not him. So as he recedes in terms of twitchiness, the less effective he's ever going to be. And I can't be around a guy whose reputation, let's just put it that way, is that he's not a great teammate, that he doesn't talk to people, that he's not in the building all that often, that he isn't an easy book to read and get along with, that he doesn't work very hard. Nope, got to go. Now, that doesn't mean I have to sign Daniel Jones. You're right. I might just be stuck. And at that point, I'm going to place a call to San Francisco, because if the 49ers, look, Mac Jones, it could be that Mac Jones is only good because of Shanahan. I don't know. It might be. I mean, that's happened before. Lots of people are just really good when they're with freaking Shanahan. He gets the most out of his quarterbacks. Or it could just be that Mac Jones wasn't good in New England because the personnel around him was dreadful. And that was the fault of Bill Belichick, who drafted like a drunken sailor at the end of his career and provided no talent anywhere on the roster. It was embarrassing. When you look back at it, I mean, what in the world was Bill Belichick doing in his final 4 years besides just sabotaging that entire franchise? I mean, we'll just make Matt Patricia the offensive coordinator. What are you talking about? He did dumbass things all the time. So I can't judge Mac Jones when he was there. I mean, he had a cup of coffee and looked decent at times, but I don't know. Maybe Mac Jones is the guy who was a frontline starter last year for weeks on end while their starting quarterback was out. And here's the deal. They keep saying in San Francisco, well, we don't want to get rid of Mac Jones. We have the best backup quarterback in the league. Well, perhaps, sir, but you can only do that for 1 more year before you're going to have to pay him. You're going to lose him. He's going to be a starting quarterback in this league again, and he knows it, and so does his agent. So if he wants to get to the getting, and there are teams out there that are going to offer you perhaps a second-round pick or 2 second-round picks or something, at some point you're going to have to part with your backup quarterback unless you want to pay him, and you're not going to pay him because you already paid the starter. So I don't know, man. I think if I were Minnesota, I'd place a call to San Francisco.
Yeah, also, you could take a look and say that it's a Shanahan-specific deal, but O'Connell has a really good track record of evoking the most out of a player. The reason Sam Darnold got paid in Seattle was because of what O'Connell did with him in Minnesota. And last year, before Carson Wentz got hurt, now he's aging and he was a backup all the way. It's not like he was going to be revitalized. Right. That offensive line also sucked, and they played a run of really good defenses, so that's why he was injured. There was no chance for protection. They got to shore up their offensive line. But it's not like O'Connell forgot how to coach and mold quarterbacks. It just speaks to how bad J.J. McCarthy is.
That's a tough situation they got there, Tom. It tells me, doesn't it? Sorry to interrupt, but let's go. This has tentacles. I mean, listen, because I've been wrong and you've been wrong and NFL GMs and coaches have been wrong so often, we hesitate to really pound our chest when we're right on a quarterback, because you're 1 year away from being really wrong on a quarterback in the modern era of football. But man, I am going to point to this victory. You and I, from the mountaintops, said, what is with the J.J. McCarthy discussion? I mean, going into that draft, every time somebody mentioned he might be a top 20 pick or a top 15 pick, I was like, why? What have you ever seen from that guy that makes you think he was the catalyst for Michigan's success? He wasn't. They chose to ground and pound. In fact, I don't know that I've enjoyed an offense. Now, I'm sick this way because I like the 1970s and 80s. But I loved Michigan's offense. Loved it. I absolutely adored the fact that they would create and go. You want to have fun? Go look back at the Michigan national title team. I get it. They stole it, the whole thing, the cheating. Yes, that's all true too. But what is also true is they were the most physical run team in America. And this is what Harbaugh does. And this is why I like it. He is so creative within the run game. They create extra holes in the way, extra gaps to run through the way that Mike Norvell did a few years ago before he went brain dead. This is what he used to do when you were outmanned. Think about what he created against Clemson when we were completely outmanned and we couldn't believe we were watching what we were watching. They were lining up and just running the ball with some par talent and just creating extra gaps and confusion. And Michigan does that. They'll run 17 different types of runs out of the same formation and change who pulls and all. Loved it. Okay, I say that to say this. McCarthy just was there to play action. That's all he had to do. They were going to run the ball. They had 2 elite running backs, an elite tight end, 2 elite tackles, 2 pro guards, a starting center that's now in the NFL. All you had to do was throw the ball successfully 12 out of 18 attempts. That's all you had to do. It was nothing. He didn't have to do anything. And then they were like, well, that J.J. McCarthy's going to be. That's the time that I don't understand is, Tom, when we watch that, you watched it and I watched it, we're like, what? There's nothing special about him. The only caveat we were willing to give was maybe he's great. We don't know. Maybe he's great. Maybe they go and work him out at Michigan for pro day and he's got a howitzer and he's throwing it accurately and he measures 6. I don't know how big he is, but let's just say all of a sudden they looked at it and he's 6'4", 225, strong build, strong lower half in the pocket, hits that 5th step, that 7th step, and the ball is out and it's accurate. Maybe all that happens because when they saw it, it'd be one of the first times they saw it because they sure as hell didn't see it every Saturday because they didn't have to do it every Saturday.
Well, I think it was a very easy call because also the offense that Minnesota runs is nothing close to what Michigan ran. Minnesota's offense is air it out. It's assault down the field. This is the way they drafted Justin Jefferson, Jeremiah Addison, TJ Hawkinson. I mean, they want to go vertical. They want to lean on the arm of the quarterback. And it never seemed like a fit. The problem that they had, just to get a little bit into the weeds, is you had the Sam Darnold experiment go crazy good for them because McCarthy got hurt.
And then he melted down in the playoffs, so they couldn't hitch their wagon.
They're like, well, are we really going to drop $45 million a year on Darnold, or are we going to go with the kid that we drafted? I kind of get why you don't front load that kind of money to Sam Darnold because he got domed up. You can't trust him in the biggest of moments. So let's go with the cheaper option, see what we got. But they got what they paid for. I know it's a rookie wage scale, but they got what they paid for last year. McCarthy did win 4 down the stretch. They played against teams that either had no defense or no playoff implications whatsoever. But we all know what we saw last year, which is, this guy's average at best. And that roster, specifically, is built to win now.
Built to win now, Tom, and he's always hurt. Yep. That's the other thing. In addition to not being very good, he's always hurt. Always hurt. And he got hurt a lot prior. So he's not a guy... Anyhow, you can't trust him. He was the lowest rated passer with those weapons.
That's
with those weapons.
This is a really easy assignment. This is, if you're going to be a rookie, this is as good as it gets outside of the offensive line problem that they have. I hear you, and that's not nothing, but you're going to have somebody in a great matchup on every play because Jefferson commands that type of attention. Addison commands that type of attention. He could not hit. Jefferson was relegated as a fantasy owner of Justin Jefferson. I can tell you for sure that Justin Jefferson was relegated to wide receiver 3 / sometimes you think middle of the week, do I bench him? I don't know that I can play him. They're playing a top 20 defense this week. He's going to have 3 for 50 at best. I hope one of them's a touchdown. That should never be a conversation when Justin Jefferson's on your roster. It should be, does he go for 150 or 122?
So the Vikings are said to be the team that is most interested in Daniel Jones. And the way the rule works is this. The Colts transition tag him. They open themselves up to the risk that another team will come in and make him a sizable offer. And the reason that's a risk is it may be a number that you're not willing to meet, in which case you just say, have a good day. And that's the way that works. The Colts might be betting on the fact that the injury will scare off teams. And I think that's a pretty safe bet, but there is some risk there. And also, there are teams that can offer him a deal that the Colts wouldn't be willing to match, but unless he signs the deal, they don't have the opportunity to match. And so, he could turn it down is my point. Like he might just say, I don't want to go to wherever, pick a team, Cleveland, like he could just say, I don't want to do that. I'll take less money to stay here. So there's a lot of, they may know where his head's at, Tom, is what I'm getting at. Because I'm sure, because the relationship's good. So they may know where his head's at. This is not an embittered situation, but I do find it fascinating. Not enough teams transition tag guys. Because again, somebody could come in and say, we think he's going to be fine. Our doctor says he's going to be great. And he's still young enough and strong enough. He's never had this injury before. Modern medical science, these guys come back from these kinds of things all the time, blah, 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 blah. They might say that. And at which point they throw a ton of money at him. Well, the Colts could match. They can still match.
The Colts can match. They need to be a little bit worried about Minnesota in this sense, though, because although the relationship between the Colts and Daniel Jones is good, you got two things going on. Because they transitioned, they've got their top receiver, whose name escapes me right now. They can't franchise tag him. This was the conundrum that they had in Indianapolis. It was either tag your best receiver and then go negotiate with Jones, or pick Jones and then hope that this is enough of a carrot to dangle to bring back. And again, his name escapes me. It's not Pittman.
Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce.
Okay, so it's Pierce. So that is one layer to the conversation here, is does the deal with Pierce get done? If it does, that helps Indianapolis markedly. The other part of it is, if you recall, Daniel Jones was with the Vikings a couple of years ago. He was picked up off of waivers after the Giants cut him. So he was in the building. He was on the practice squad. According to the beat reporters up there, they really liked him. They elevated him up from practice squad, and they cut Brett Rippon, and he was the emergency quarterback for the wild card game when Darnold was the starter. The long story short is they already know what they have in him in the building, and I think that relationship was very good, very positive for both sides. So Indianapolis has to land Pierce, make sure he comes back in order to entice Daniel, because if you're Daniel Jones and maybe Minnesota says, we'll cut you a deal, well, now I get to throw to Addison and Hawkinson and Jefferson. Like, that sounds like a good deal to me, and he already knows how Kevin O'Connell works, and he likes him. So it's an interesting domino to fall, because it doesn't just impact Indianapolis and Minnesota. Also, all of the quarterback dominoes in the shuffle are affected by however this plays out.
Good times right now, man, as they build up to the start of the official NFL season, which is, again, getting underway in 5 days. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. You guys like this on Wednesday, so I do it on Wednesday in the bonus hour, trying to get more consistent with it. The problem with the Arnold Palmer is that it is the Arnold Palmer Invitational presented by MasterCard. Sorry, guys. By the way, MasterCard has the coolest of all the logos. Just saying. I really like, is it Justin Rose that has it on his collar?
Yes. Yeah. He's got the partnership with them. He is clearly a darling behind the scenes. And you said this, like, he's just a great guy.
Super nice.
Professional, super nice. All the things that you want if you're a sponsor. Because he's been good the last 5 years, he hadn't been great. I mean, he won the U.S. Open close
a long time ago,
15 years ago almost.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah.
Right. And yet he still has impeccable sponsor deals because he is, first of all, he's British, which I think helps. It's like if you want basketball analysis, you turn to a guy with a New York accent. If you want financial analysis, give me a British accent. And that's why it just plays. It makes sense. But my man's like, he's got either Charles Schwab or Grant Thornton and MasterCard. He does very, very well for himself from that standpoint.
He has done well. And I also think his story is a good story. You know, he was almost out of golf. He had fallen off a cliff and then fought his way all the way back after being a phenom coming onto the tour, you know, and all that. So people like redemptive stories and arcs, and he has been all of those things. And then he's been really consistent in the last 5 years as a very, very upper crust player with a chance to win a couple more majors added to the ledger. He's come up just short. I would say this, as far as your projection of Mr. Rose, this needs to be the week. He has not.
He hated the West Coast. You could tell. But
he's won out there, so get it together, Justin.
Yeah,
he's won at Pebble Beach before. He's won. I mean, he's won out in California. So I don't know why he's not getting a pass from me.
He gets going on the Bermuda here this week. This is what you're looking for. Hey, if you watch on Saturday, everybody, and we go to Rose here as tee shot on 11.
There's Tom Lang,
and you hear the shot. You hear Rosie. That would be me. That would be me saying, go get him. I am here to tell you that I think the world would benefit from a back nine at Augusta of Shane Lowry versus Justin Rose in the final pairing. And can Shane overcome the demons he's had? Can Rose finally not be the bridesmaid, but be the bride of Augusta for once, like Sergio in a playoff, like Rory? That's what I want. But it would start with a decent result this week because he has been shaky.
I need him to get it to go. Get it together. Well down the list in terms of projected winners or top 20s. We'll see. Now, that doesn't mean anything because there are guys that I like this week that aren't projecting well. For example, I got out in front of this when his demeanor changed and he had those 2 good rounds out in L.A., and now I feel good again. Little pizza money on Ludwig Abor. Little pizza money on Ludwig. He's starting to play better. And he plays well on long courses because he hits it a mile. And tough tracks are Ludwig's thing. So, all right, come on, Ludwig. I'm gonna put you in one of my lineups for sure. I think this is a good week for Matt Fitzpatrick. I like this course for him, by the way. Now, listen, you guys understand the deal here when we have this exercise. Scotty Scheffler is favored to win the tournament, although I could make an argument that perhaps Rory McIlroy should be a greater favorite over Scotty Scheffler. But the problem is Scotty Scheffler has owned this course. So, you know, I get it. He's been really, really good. He has a 95% chance to make the cut. Rory McIlroy has a 90% chance to make the cut. In the win share market, it's 17% for Scotty Scheffler, 7% for Rory McIlroy. Those are your top 2 guys. Now, when you're in a league and you are drafting, let's say I'm in a league and I didn't have the first pick. I had the second pick. Thankfully for me, I didn't really want Scotty Scheffler this week, so the guy who had the first pick took him, and I jumped at Rory. I like Rory's game right now. I feel fine with that. But from there, if you want to go further down the board, if you're a DraftKings lineup guy and you understand by salary, you kind of want the non-Scheffler, non-Rory market. You need volatility and have to hope that it sides with you that week because you want a roster that is not going to be aped by others or duplicated 1,000 times over in a 20,000 team league. And then that's the case. I think at least in terms of the high dollar guys, I do like Fitzpatrick quite a bit. He's not nearly as high a pick. I think I got Fitzpatrick. Let's see. I got it here on my list. I got him at 9,800. A far cry for what you would pay for Scheffler or McIlroy or even Fleetwood for that matter. From there, a little further down that list, you start looking at the $7,000 or the $8,000 guys. I like Goddard up in the $8,000 range. I like Nikolai Hogard again, who finished in the top 15 last week when I had him. I did make the mistake of not having Echeverria despite telling everybody they should have Echeverria. That was a mistake. Anyhow, I'm picking Hogard again. I like his consistency. He's a good player. In the $8,000 range also, I'm going to continue to bang this drum over and over again. Jake Knapp is a ball player, man. I love me some Knapp, and he's having a great year right now. Also, it's the sweetest swing on the PGA Tour. I could watch it all day, every day. Give me Knapp to sprinkle some top. Hey, look, you want to do 20, 10, 5, pizza money on a couple of winners. Pick you some guys. Siwoo Kim projects well here too. Everybody knows I like Siwoo. I'm not on him this week though. I am on Knapp. I am on Gerard. I am on Hogard. I like Goddard. I like Fitzpatrick. Those are my guys this week so far, and I'm probably going to put together some more lineups.
I got one for you. Here's one for you, Jeff.
Okay.
And I like Hovland this week. And this is Hovland's time to emerge. I think this is what happens to a lot of careers. Guys touch the sun, maybe they win a major or two, or they don't. And then they come back to earth. You say, what the hell happened to this guy? And boom, they pop back. It's time for Hovland to do that. He showed you signs of life at the Phoenix, where he finished T10. At Dubai earlier this year, he finished top 20. But he hasn't played since Riviera, where he was tied 41st. Again, with the weather draw, I'm going to water down some of those results and not take a whole lot away from it. Hovland's played pretty well on Bermuda in his career. He's played well at Valspar. He's played well, I believe, at this event. But he's 44-1 to win. He's just about 7-1 to finish top 5, 3-1 to finish top 10. I love those odds. I think you can buy low on Hovland. And then by the time that you get to the Masters, he'll probably be a lot more expensive to play because I think form is coming for him. I think he's timing it out just right.
Well, you can buy low on Ludwig right now, and you can buy low on Shane Lowry after his collapse last week, and he'll play well here. And hopefully he just, whatever that was at the end of last week, it leaves him, and he'll be fine again. Hovland's a nice pick, Tom. I have him right there with Bobby Mack. I've got him right there with Patrick Cantlay in that area. Data golf, for people wondering, 79.9% to make the cut, 34% to top 20 finish, 16% top 10 finish, just a 1.5% chance to win the tournament according to Data Golf. But remember, when in Data Golf, the way that works, first of all, picking outrights is very, very difficult. The best odds you're ever going to get these days is Scotty Scheffler, and even that is less than 18%. So, picking an outright winner is tough. I have Matt Fitzpatrick with some pizza money to win the whole thing at 3.7%. And I like that. I feel pretty good about that. But yeah, Hovland as a top 20, as a top 10, I see you working there. Hovland's weird, man. How in the world do you win the FedEx Cup? And at the time that you win the FedEx Cup a few years ago, you have really what looked to be the most consistent ball striking swing on all the tour with your irons. And then all of a sudden you decide you're going to Tiger Woods this thing, and nobody's Tiger Woods but Tiger Woods. Very few people can continue to change their swing over and over again, especially unsolicited and unnecessarily, and still be elite. Tiger was the number one player in the world with 4 different swings. It just shows you his preternatural greatness. Very few people ever in their life have done it. Jack never changed his damn swing. Arnie never changed his damn swing. I mean, you're not changing your swing when it's as pretty as that, but he did. But he was also a freak. Hovland, really good player. Why'd you change your swing, man? That was stupid. It's put you out in the damn pasture for 2 years. No reason. No reason. Makes me angry.
Well, but when you come out of that, sometimes you come out a little bit tougher mentally because, I've been lost before. I found my way back. I didn't know I needed to find such strength because my whole life I've always been great. And then you come back with a simplified attitude. And that's what it sounds like just listening to the interviews for him. It's a simplified attitude. And again, for some players, the Godderups of the world, or McNeely, or Bridgman, or Ben Griffin, like this is it for them. Each week in a designated event, this is it. For dudes like Hovland, I'm tuning my game to get right by the players. I'm tuning my game to get right by Augusta. So this is when you break. If you're a horse in the race, this is where you break, right here. This is where you want to show that you're ready to go and your game's in a good spot. The thing I like about this track, as a kid, I never really liked it that much, even though Tiger had so many great finishes. I feel like he made it more famous than the
was.
It's not easy relative to par.
No.
These guys have to go out there and earn it. And
it's a tough track. That's why I like Aberg this week a lot. It's a very tough track.
You're looking for a mentally tough dude who's good at scrambling and then also can bomb it a little bit. Yep.
By the way, you can get Akshay Bhatia for next to nothing. I mean, next to nothing. You want a long shot to finish in the top 10 and make a little bit of money, or top 20? I mean, Batia 7,500 in DraftKings is I don't know why they don't like Batia here. He does a lot of things very well. He goes big game hunting. I don't like him to win tournaments, but I like him to be in the mix to win tournaments a lot. He often is. He's a guy that putts it well. I don't know. I mean, I like Batia here. You can get him for next to nothing. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. We are almost to the part of the show beginning very, very soon where I'll be able to say, hit that probables. Hit that probables, buddy. It is almost probables time. I could make an argument if I wanted, Tommy, that we could do it early because we are this close to Team USA in the first pool, Pool B, taking on Brazil. 2 days, 9 hours, 52 minutes, 8 o'clock. I believe it's on Fox Sports. U.S. versus Brazil for the World Baseball Classic. And you know how much I love the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, you do. Especially group play. I think group play is your favorite when we take on the Great Britons of the world and then Brazil.
Well, I just like the start of the tournament. I like the whole kit and caboodle. Now, these first few games, we got a game tonight at 10 p.m. TPE versus Australia in the Tokyo Dome, buddy, in Japan. Then Thursday, you got Czechs versus Korea, also in the Tokyo Dome. Then Friday, it's a full slate of let's get it on. Cuba and Panama, Netherlands versus Venezuela down in Miami at Lone Depot Park. That'd be a fun game to be at. Mexico and Great Britain out in Houston, Texas. You got Nicaragua against the Dominican Republic in Miami. That'll be well attended. Puerto Rico and Colombia. Oh, Tommy, what a time, man. I wish kind of wish the U.S. was playing down in Miami. I'd love to go down there and see that. They're not. They're playing in Houston. And then Saturday, we got a full slate of games again, and should be a lot of fun. We play Great Britain on Saturday. We got to beat that ass. Great Britain ought to have no chance. That game ought to be 10-0.
I'm somewhat surprised that you didn't sneak down to Miami this weekend to watch some of the WBC. Are you not going to make a spring training game this year?
I'm going to make a spring training game this year. Here's the deal. This week is the last week before the kids go on spring break. When does spring training end? It's the last day. I don't have it pulled up. You can tell me.
The beginning of the season is, I think, 3 weeks from tomorrow, I think. Is that right? So 26th or so? Is that right?
I'll have to get the I'll have to find a way to escape.
It's 3 weeks. Oh, my God. It's 3 weeks from today that you have opening night, Yankees-Giants, and that'll be a Netflix-only game, Jeff. Isn't that great? But then opening day is March 26th, so 3 weeks from tomorrow. First game of the season, live on national television on NBC, because NBC is now back into baseball for the first time since, I think, Charlie Hayes caught the final out for the Yankees in the World Series forever ago. That's going to be Pirates-Mets. First game on NBC, 3 weeks from tomorrow.
3 weeks from tomorrow. Can you believe it?
So you got about 2 weeks. You got about 2 weeks to hit the road.
I got to find a way, because here's the problem. This week is a no-go. Obviously, we both taking a little bit of time here and there. And I've got next week where I can take a little bit of time too. But the kids don't start their spring break until the end of next week, and I got to get them out of the house, and then I can make it happen because they're still in school. Bryce is going to Puerto Rico after that, and he'll be there for a full week. Good times for him, just taking off to Puerto Rico. But I'll find a way. I will find a way. Hey, in the interim, we can end the show this way. I just wanted everybody to know that we were very, very close to probables. But I do appreciate, once again, everybody's kindness out there and the way that you guys keep me in mind when these things happen. Here you go. Christopher Kidney of Flemingsburg, Kentucky has struck gold at his local Goodwill. Started as a routine visit, turned it into a jackpot of rare sports memorabilia. All of the cards that he purchased were under $20. He was able to find a a CC Sabathia rookie, a Don Mattingly rookie, as well as a New York Giants hero Plaxico Burress card. Also found a signed Yogi Berra. Who turns in a signed Yogi Berra to Goodwill? Damn it, man. So this guy goes in there. He's checking the cards. He's looking at the T206 set by the American Tobacco Company. Everybody's looking for that one. His hobby has been collecting cards since the 80s. He's desperately searching. He goes in there. He looks around. He sees some cards, and he thinks, man, that's a Mickey Mantle. That's a signed CC Sabathia. What's going on here? Yeah, so then he buys a card for $1.59. Then he finds an autographed signed book of baseball cards from 1949. Yeah, it turns out that the haul was worth over $50,000. He spent less than $20 on the cards that he purchased that day at the Goodwill. I got to take it to the Goodwill, Tom. And I got to be honest with you. I like going to thrift stores and I like going to Goodwill. I don't ever really buy anything. I don't know why I like meandering about and seeing other people's stuff, but I do. I'll go in there and be like, I read that book 32 years ago. Good. Somebody else had it.
Yeah, there's something to that. You very much like to see evidence of life before you existed and wonderment of what that life looked like, sounded like, and felt like.
I do.
Because I know that you love restored historical footage from the early 20th century, where people go to work on these things where they're in a carriage or a trolley car of some kind, and
Love
you
it.
see people walking the streets. Well, this is another physical manifestation of that curiosity of what came before you, which is, look at that piece of crap jacket. I'll bet that was the biggest thing in fashion back in 1922. Oh, it smells like tobacco still to this day, and it gives you a little visceral connection to the past.
Well, it's a weird way of appreciating being alive. Because there's people, the evidence is that the people that left these things are dead, or somebody died recently and they all got turned in. I always find that stuff. You go to these places, the antique stores, where they have boxes of pictures. Just boxes of pictures. And they're randomly turned in by somebody who found them in a dresser. And we're like, yeah, I don't know. Aunt Kathy's dead. I don't know who the hell these people are. I'm not going to keep them rather than throw them away. I'll just give them to some. Well, you can find them. And you go in there and you're like looking at the pictures. And then you look at the back and it's like, Tina, 1927 in Brooklyn. You're like, well, there's Tina, 1927 in Brooklyn. Wonder if I could find out more information about Tina. My wife laughs at me. I'll come home from places like that, desperately searching the interwebs for a Tina that lived in Brooklyn in the 20s so I could see what happened in her life. How did she die? How much longer after this picture was taken did she live? I do the Carpe Diem thing, man. I'm always looking into the eyes of people like, oh, that guy was this 1857. Look at that guy. Wonder how much longer he lived.
Yeah. That guy's clearly blitzed. He might only be 11 years old, but he's clearly blitzed right now.
He was working the railroad smoking Lucky Strikes.
That's right. The Lucky Strikes and the Schlitz. Yeah, there it is. The 1-2.
That poor guy, man.
Or the Rheingold back in those days, too.
All right. We're off tomorrow. Enjoy your day. Have a great night, everybody. Be well. We'll get you caught up on Friday with some FSU football talk after the lunch. And peace.